take something away from all their experience. We will be doing a panel for around 30 minutes, and then we'll open it up for Q&A, and we'll also have pizza for you guys after the panel.
Cool. If you guys don't mind, maybe you guys could briefly introduce yourselves. Blake, you want to get started?
Yeah. I'm Blake. I used to go to Santa Clara, no longer. I run a company called SubHub, and we're building AI in construction.
I'm Sean. I also used to go to Santa Clara. I run a company called Symphony. We serve non-US robotics companies.
I'm Francisco. I also used to go to Santa Clara. I'm founder of Discify. We're building like AI personalization tools on the desktop. Yeah.
Cool. All right, so to start us off, I know Sean and Blake, both of you guys didn't necessarily have formal experience in construction or robotics leading up to founding your startups. So how did you address that knowledge gap, and were there any challenges you faced in proving yourself in the industry?
First.
Sure. Yeah. So a little bit more kind of adjacent experience here. So like robotics is kind of an AI problem, and AI is like a data problem. I guess since I've been doing AI for a while, it kind of translates pretty well. But yeah, no, I did have to kind of prove myself in many different ways. We actually, how we kind of got into where we are today was, well, first, we won first place at the NVIDIA GTC Hackathon, and that got us a lot of leverage, be able to kind of work with NVIDIA researchers and later some OpenAI researchers on kind of developing our product. And then later we became the first, I think, to train a robot model, the full t-shirts on completely synthetically generated data. And then that was kind of like the point where like a bunch of these like US labs were like, oh shit, wait, these kids are like actually doing cool shit.
Right.
So like they invited us, we visited, and then, things worked out. So
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, in our case, so before SubHub, we had this company. It was like an agency, and we worked in a bunch of different spaces, like canned motorcycle industry, credit card industry, construction. And we literally just build software, big fat companies, and solve problems. And I think the one thing I realized was learning and applying it is sort of like a tree branch of assumptions. And every time you learn a new piece of information from someone who has more context than you, say, construction, you kind of iterate off that. And so our whole thing was just listening to the market and constantly iterating. And you can actually leverage people and their decades of experience as if you had it yourself. If you ever met someone who's really good at math and they just looked at the problem, they skip 20 steps and they finish. People do that in everything. It's not just math. So you can use people like that too to sort of skip the steps and show you the information that allows you to become more efficiently solving the problem or whatever you're doing. So that's kind of how we did it.
Very cool. And then you and your co-founder also spent time in Texas, correct?
Yes.
With contract. Do you want to tell?
Yeah. So we were at Santa Clara and we actually dropped out, and we literally moved to Texas just because we had a couple construction clients in Texas, and we lived with our clients. And it was just my co-founder and I, and it was one room, 2 mattresses on the floor, and we just were like, okay, we're not leaving this city until we figure out what to build.
Yeah.
And that was just literally throwing ourselves into the problem and figuring out how to solve it. So that was our approach, but a little risky. I don't know if I recommend it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Maybe Francisco, you can start us off with this one. The first version of your product usually rarely survives for long or for the first year. What's one major assumption you had at the start that maybe the market completely proved wrong?
I think it was really the whole idea about building feature versus product. So for us, it was we were initially started off by building file search using both local models and then also remote models to make it really easy for you to use natural language to discover your own files on your computer. And this was kind of a little bit scary because it was very much we're building a feature. File search is a feature. It's not really a product. So there's a lot of arguments that you could make saying people wouldn't really buy this or this really wouldn't be successful. But what ended up working out in our favor was this whole people being the way that people got comfortable using ChatGPT, being able to ask it a question using natural language and then you get a response back. That kind of paradigm also showed itself in people wanting to look for their own things. So that's kind of one thing that ended up working out in our favor was that even though we did build the feature, people liked it because they're so used to how they already speak with large language models that it ended up working out for finding their own content and videos and photos. But now we're kind of expanding the vision to be much bigger than just file search. wanting to become more like a desktop assistance layer. So, yeah.
Very cool. And then, did you guys have any pivot stories or any changes in your product?
Definitely. Bro, I've seen your movie like 20 times. Same with me. Yes, pivots are good, but like I feel like it's never a pivot's not really a thing. You know, it's like you don't just wake up one day and you're like, oh, I'm going to completely change everything I know about what I'm building.
Yeah.
A pivot is like a daily thing that happens where you do these like micro changes that like guide you in the right direction. Like you have this really good analogy for vectors, which is like I'm stealing it. But it's like the magnitude and direction, right? So like a pivot is like that slight adjustment in the direction,
Right.
and the magnitude doesn't necessarily have to change.
Right.
You can still be going as powerful, but
Gotcha.
you kind of guide it, and that's literally just the iterative process. So
Okay.
we've done a ton of pivots, but yeah.
So basically, Jen, like, what was your product again?
Yeah, what it would like, how did it start, and like what did it transition into?
Yeah, can you summarize
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, so basically, any project that's built, you have this general contractor, they have to make sure it gets built for price, and the roofer, the flooring guy, all those companies actually build it, right?
Yeah.
So we used to get hired for those generals to find all the roofers and subs. And no one actually wanted to work for those guys. And we were like, why does no one want to actually like bid and do this process with them? We learned it cost a lot of money to do that process for all those third parties. And so eventually we're like spamming them, right? We were like, oh, come work for this company, come bid for this project. And it wasn't really solving the problem. We realized the core problem was the amount of labor required for those roofing companies, flooring companies, to build those quotes. It's a lot of labor, so that's why they weren't doing it. So what we ended up realizing was we can't just reach out to them. We have to go to them. We have to reduce the labor with AI. So that solves the internal problem that's causing that market issue.
So is it kind of, so you say it's a like kind of roofing company?
Yeah.
Like, is it the one who build roof?
Yeah, but that's just an example. It could be any of the people who build. Yeah.
Oh, so basically they keep hiring you, and then to do the work, but then eventually all the companies hire you, and then you decide to create an AI that
Yeah.
solves all this.
Yeah, an example would just be like, if you hired me to find people that are really hard to find for a reason, well, I don't have to find them if I fix the reason they're hard to find. So if you use technology to fix the core reason, you gain a lot of leverage on the market. You know, it builds a moat. It's just a much better play. So that's kind of how we iterate deeper and deeper into the problem to solve the core problem. So then it kind of forms a market around it.
Cool. We'll take more questions after the panel. But I wanted to ask, we've seen the rise of like the popularity of agents and vibe coding. How has that changed your approach to one, building technical teams, but also just like the development process in general and how you build your products?
I think for us, because we're in robotics, that's like a little bit different. We're not like doing exactly the software-based solution. But I know that like for NVIDIA actually, in my interview, it was like, okay, first of all, like actually these vibe coding skills are actually getting like pretty important, and interviewers specifically look for that. And also, if you're like applying to YC again, you would have saw that like they're asking for like your favorite like agent session, coding agent session or something like that. Yeah, during my NVIDIA interview, actually, my manager essentially asked me like, okay, here's like what we're interested in. We're interested in using AI agents to like build something, and he essentially needs like something. And actually, like why in the like 2-minute span that he talked, I just like Claude coded like pretty much like what he asked for, like a very like basic prototype of it, and I showed him. He was like, oh shit, like you're hired.
That's fine.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like I think everyone's pretty much like looking for people that can leverage and use it pretty well. I agree with it.
I have a crazy story on this topic.
Let's hear it.
So it's really weird what's happening in the job market right now. We need this really technical position, like this like research style position, and we were interviewing guys who are like 45 years old. They get paid $900K at Adobe, and we're trying to hire them, right? And so we build this technical screen that's like just a benchmark for how cracked they are if they can fill the position. And what we realized was the people who were worth like $700K, $900K, these crazy salary amounts, they were a little bit older, and when the technical screen would happen, they like wouldn't use AI code. They would just try to write it from scratch. And so they would perform much, much worse than the out-of-grad college person who's not that technical and knows nothing other than how to use cursor. And literally that person who's worth like $120K would get farther than the guy worth 900K. And so there's this paradigm shift right now in terms of like what the skill of developing actually means. And we're realizing more and more it's that leverage from
It's basically the leverage of using the technology to assist you to build much faster than trying to do everything from scratch
Exactly.
and the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, if you're a shoveling company, it doesn't matter how fast you are at shoveling with teaspoons, right? If someone has a shovel instead of a teaspoon, you're gonna lose, right?
I mean, even better, someone have an automatic shovel.
Yeah, or like whatever,
Or
excavator,
something.
anything, right? It's literally just leverage, and we're all staring in the face the biggest paradigm shift of engineering ever. So, yeah, definitely adopt it.
Francisco, do you have any stories?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the same thing. I think you move a lot faster with using any coding agents. Like I personally use Claude Code; it's very good. I mean, I've switched between like Claude Code and Cursor. I think the bigger importance now for anyone that wants to become a developer or software engineer is just knowing how to like actually build a system or knowing good like software design principles and like your MVC patterns. Just making sure that you actually it's one thing to vibe code a product, be like, oh, this is what I wanted to do, and then it's another thing to actually make sure that you're building it the right way, so that when you do, scale your code base, more than 5,000, 10,000 lines of code, you're still maintaining pretty good software design principles. So I think like that's the bigger importance now is like just knowing the fundamentals, knowing the principles of good like software design, rather than actually like knowing how to code. I think that's what's more important now. So yeah.
Got it. Very cool. Now, of course, you guys all started your companies when you were students, right? And so when it comes to talking to VCs, talking to seasoned professionals in the industry, how does being a student help or hurt you? And like, how do you establish authority for them to like actually take you seriously rather than just thinking you're some kid?
I think actually being a student levels the playing field so much. It's like if you are 20 and like you're not in school and you have a job, like they will look at you completely differently than like if you're a student, you're 20 and a student in school. Just because being a student means that you have that like possibility and like potential ahead of you, right? And people will kind of be nicer with you and kind of give you more access, trust you more, etc. So you can ask for like more outrageous things, like, oh, can I just go like, oh, can I go visit your company? Can I go visit your office? Or like, yeah, I think that's very much to leverage. And you can almost like reach out to anyone because you're a student. But if you're like, if you're like a software or like if you're already in like sales at like a large company, they'll assume that you're reaching out because you're like trying to sell something.
Right.
Yeah. People kind of look at you more for your utility than like just because. You're fun.
Do you have any recommendation on how to get more involved in AI and so?
I think we can take questions after the panel.
Oh yeah. Just write them down, and then we'll have like a time.
Yeah.
Where we'll do questions.
We'll do questions after. Did Blake or Francisco, did you guys have anything?
One little raisin hack for being young. I think if you think about to Sean's point about like potential, like aside from what you found in the market, people are going to judge you based off of what your upper bound is. How high can this kid go? And the biggest flattery that you can do in a pitch is sort of embodying how they see themselves at your age. And one of the ways to do that is if you make suggestions, affirm their belief, and then circle it back to them, you can sort of curate your entire way of thinking to how they think just by making them say yes to themselves. Like it's literally a loop of that. And then when they start to associate you with the 20-year-old self, well, if they're successful in investing, well, what came after they were 20? They became successful, right? And so you can sort of like generate this like synthetic trust and association with themselves for said investor you're pitching based off literally just mirroring their beliefs and everything about them. And so as a young person, you can leverage that so much because no one is going to trust anyone more than themselves. So that's why you try to embody it that way.
Yeah, I've actually noticed that like when I'm reaching out to people or I'm coffee chatting people, and if they can see themselves in me, they get excited, and then they're throwing all these resources at me, and they're like, "Oh, we want to help this kid out, get to,
They'll throw more resources at you for that context than anyone else that would come into their life.
Right,
it's crazy. People give it all.
Yeah. So I think we can move on to the next question. Francisco, maybe you could start us off. But students these days are very busy, whether it's with school, extracurriculars, whatever it may be. How did you guys I guess, manage your time? I know a couple of you dropped out as well. But how did you guys, I guess, when you were students, how did you manage your time and prioritize? And then what were some things that you had to sacrifice in that process?
Well, to be honest, the answer for me is I definitely didn't. I don't think I managed my time between school and like working on my business. But what I would always tell myself was that, like, you know, when I was working on my business, I knew that I was learning skills that would be extremely valuable to me that I wasn't going to learn in like my classes. And a lot of the things, so I was computer science, so a lot of things I was learning in my classes were things that I kind of already knew. And I don't say that to toot my own horn, but it's just like I felt that I was always learning more when I was actually going, like when I hit the ground running, when I actually did what it was that I wanted to do, and I was actually having the experience of, you know, like running a business and like talking to customers and like dealing with tickets and like, you know, issuing refunds or, you know, having to pay out people. I learned a lot more about just like proper business acumen on top of the actual like software development part of it by literally doing it and having a real world application than I was in my classes. So for me, it was a little bit easier to justify like not focusing too much on school and more so like on my business than I was learning things that I wanted to learn. But with that being said, like, yes, you know, there are some times when you kind of have to, you know, obviously hit the books and put the business to the side. But for the most part, it really is hard. I mean, I think the biggest thing you hear in like startups is like there's no work-life balance, and I think like that's very true. So yeah.
What was your GPA?
By the time I graduated, I think it was like an even like 3.4, but it was not it was alright. I'm fine with it.
Wait, CS?
Yeah.
You guys have any stories?
Yeah. I mean, wait, are we in the same grade? Or were we in the
We're
same grade?
supposed to be.
Supposed to? Okay, cool. Well, when I came, yeah, we're not grade influencers. Well, when I,
Aren't you a year older?
oh, am I a year old?
No, we're actually same.
Oh, yeah,
Like 2 months of
yeah, because you're older.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I came to Santa Clara. I was recruited here. I was running like track and cross country here.
Right.
So couple that with being in a distance relationship with running a business with school, you know, I definitely struggled with the time management thing. And what I was forced to realize was low-key the most valuable lesson I've ever realized in my life, which is like, if you just summarized anything I've ever done that's decent, that 95% of the output came from like literally 5% of my time. And people who are excited to be entrepreneurial just give themselves work, and that's something everyone falls for. The best people fall for it too, but it really is like that whole like 95-5 rule of like the highest leverage things you can do. And then now kind of like looking at it from a top-down view of like, now I have to assign people for time management. It's like one of our investors was the CFO of General Electric, and I worked with him, and we built out this whole matrix, and literally every single task that we assign is based out of 2 variables. It's a low, medium, high effort, which is the time required, and then a high, medium, low leverage. And it sounds so simple, but it will change your life. If everything you think you need to do, you just say if it's low, medium, high effort, or low, medium, high leverage, and then you just find the highest leverage and the lowest effort, what you'll get out of your time will 5x. I promise you. So like that by far was like the biggest thing that kind of like shifted how much I could get.
Well, that's really powerful. Sean, did you hear?
Yeah. I also had like a kind of 3.4 to 3.5-ish before I left. In fact, I actually like I think failed 2 classes in my first term here. It's kind of fun. But yeah, no, I redid the one I did about it. But it was like yeah, I mean, had the shit going on with like some NVIDIA researchers for a while.
Right.
Spring break last year,
Right.
during the spring last year, and then you know had school, was dating Bella, and you know had this like kind of thing going.
Right.
And then yeah, I think it just came to a point that like I realized like, oh, okay, like yeah. Oh, some cool examples. There would be like I would be sending like the NVIDIA researchers like bug emails at like 5 a.m.
Really? I think Carter was talking about that during the hackathon.
Yeah. It was like it was pretty rough. It was pretty rough.
Yeah.
But it was something that like it's just like almost like lit me on fire, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I was like, fuck, I gotta do this.
Yeah.
It's like sick as fuck.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's just, yeah, I had to keep going. And also, you know, I hated leak code.
Right.
You know, I did CS. I knew I was not gonna, you know, beat the motherfuckers that like grind leak code out like
100%,
2
yeah.
hours a day.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
Cool. For Diskify and SubHub, you guys are dealing with quite sensitive data, I would say. How do you like balance and like there's like a demand for, of course, like powerful technology and like you want like AI to handle most of the stuff, but then you also have to deal with privacy demands, right? So how do you balance that? And are there any issues you face?
Well, I guess for us, like our main platform that we work on is a desktop. So the biggest bet that I've I guess you could call it a bet, is the fact that most consumer hardware in a couple of years from now is going to support running like local models. And I mean, we're already seeing that. If anyone's like messed around with like Llama, like it's very easy to run your own models like right from your computer without having needing any remote connection. So when we're like, for us, like we deal with personal information, we deal with people's personal files and their data. So our biggest, I guess you could call it like a differentiator from what's already out there on the market, is like we're very focused on like running models locally to do a lot of the inference that we need to get done. And the benefit there is like, everything stays on your machine. But unfortunately, like there are a lot of people that don't have computers that can run models locally just yet. But you give it a couple of years, probably 2-3 years out, most computers are going to be able to run quantized models very, very easily. So that's kind of one bet that we're taking, is that eventually most AI is going to be able to run locally, which kind of solves that privacy argument.
Right.
But,
Yeah, we were gonna have a issue with the privacy because, like, long story short, what we basically do is every building has a bunch of materials. Right now in construction, you have to use a ruler to like break out every material to know what to bring here. So we just automate that whole thing, and we have to do that for hundreds of companies, scattered across one project, because there's a lot of different companies that built this place. So what we did is we were a little bit worried about having to create like local instances and like privacy and like everything for all of these hundreds of firms. But what we realized is we can set the guy above, which is that general, as sort of the controller, and we can like localize all the privacy, which really is more on that person's side. And then we can distribute to all of these other parties what they're kind of like holding, if that makes sense. And it didn't just help a privacy issue because now the third parties aren't liable and they don't have anything sensitive, but actually it caused for a distribution advantage because now 100 firms are distributed through this one person, which acquires 100 clients for every project, right? So it was a distribution advantage to solve the privacy issue. That's how we kind of solve the privacy stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think in terms, this is sort of going on another tangent, but when people think of student entrepreneurs in the Bay Area, people just think of Stanford and Berkeley, right? Do you think that's changing? Do you think Santa Clara is moving the needle? And of course, you guys are part of that change, but like, where do you think like Santa Clara is heading in terms of entrepreneurship?
I'll say something. So I have this conversation a lot with, so I like live in the city, and I co-work with a bunch of people that are from like Stanford, Berkeley, and they're like YC people. I think a good portion of Y Combinator's last batch was mostly Berkeley founders. And it's really surprising that Santa Clara doesn't really have, like, we graduate a lot of consultants, accountants, people that go into finance. Like, that's not a bad thing, but we definitely lack in the like entrepreneurship, like startup department. And it really makes you question, like, we've been in the Bay just as long as the other schools have. Why are we not, why are we not graduating? When you look at the diversity, like the makeup of startup founders in the Bay Area, like most of them are Stanford, Berkeley, like you mentioned. So when I was here, I graduated class of 2024. I think that was really when the school was kind of making a shift for more resources in regards to entrepreneurship. But obviously from what I've seen, just like online and stuff, it really looks like the students all started making a big effort, pushing for more like AI stuff, more like startup stuff, which I think is great. And hopefully the school follows through on that. But yeah, I mean, that's very true, right? It's kind of hard being a student entrepreneur when, like most people from Santa Clara don't really go that route. So yeah, I think it's just like kind of one step at a time.
Oh, low key, the Stanford Berkeley kids, they're not all bad, bro. Like,
that's true, yeah.
Oh, are you, did you do YCU?
No.
Okay, YCU is also getting kind of shitty. A lot of people, like internal industry people in that, like they kind of just like go after brand names, and it's like, brand names. But you will meet kind of this like paradigm of like, I think, like, you talk to investors and it's like there's the team slide. And you put yourself on there. You can't just put like a Stanford University logo next to it and like borrow that trust. So that you do have to like actively work to like borrow that trust from elsewhere. So that means like, do you like work on like cool projects, if you have like users, if you have like traction, if there's like, if you were able to recruit other people on your team, etc. But yeah. Oh, also like a very interesting thing I found. I don't know if you found this, but like, I've actually more recently like when hiring enjoyed working with Santa Clara kids more, like much more than like Berkeley or Stanford kids.
Really?
I actually think, like I feel like that brand that like where you sometimes even experience is almost like useless. What matters is only kind of like your conviction, your willingness to like learn, and your rate of learning, adapting, etc. I don't know if you actually found this, but yeah, dude, like they're not all bad, right? Like
Your co-founder is from Berkeley, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
The dropout. Yeah, I don't know. My take on it is like I've been kind of like in my own bubble of like the work I do for like probably 5 years, and still to this day, I've never been asked about my college degree, or if I didn't tell someone where I went, I've never been asked about what college I went to.
Right.
And so I think, if anything, the whole like Santa Clara on the come up, it says less about Santa Clara. It says more about the people going here.
Right.
People judge less so the label, and they judge the person now, which is really exciting. So you won't be asked if it was Santa Clara or Stanford. You'll just be asked about, how you qualify with yourself. If we have the better population now, it's pretty cool.
That's amazing.
I also did hear at like hackathons, like I overheard like some people talking about like, ooh, there's like Santa Clara kids
Really?
and hackathons on the rise.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we'll wrap it up with one final question. I feel like every other student you talk to talks about wanting to be an entrepreneur. And sometimes people have ideas, but they're too scared to go and pursue them. Is there any advice you would give to students so it's less talking and more doing? And like, how do you actually go out there and build something that the world needs? I don't know who wants to start it off.
I think the most important thing you can do is just like talk to people, because chances are, especially if you're young, you don't have that much domain experience in whatever it is that you're doing. I mean, you could, but most of the time you don't. So just talking to people is a really great way to understand what problems people have, and then it's up to you to decide how you can create a solution for that problem, or figuring out, is this problem demanding enough for there to be a market for it. And also somehow mix that in with what you're passionate about. I think that's a really good way to get started, and then I think the rest will follow if you are able to, one, find something you're passionate about, and two, find a problem big enough worth having conviction to spend 3 years building a solution for it. And yeah, there's never been an easier time in our lives to get started. With all these coding tools, the time to develop something has gone from like 3 months down to literally like an entire week just to get an MVP. So now is easily the best time to start a business, easily the best time to execute on your idea. And don't be afraid of failing. I think that's the biggest lesson, is just, learn how to fail and get right back to it.
Yeah. And then, Sean, like,
Low key gotta be like a masochist.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, you agree with that? Like you gotta enjoy the pain.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I think that is kind of like a barrier to entry. Yeah. Like if you gotta prioritize your own like growth or like impact or like learning more than I think just like comfort or like which is actually which sounds easy but like it's like pretty hard. When it's like when it's like 9 o'clock at night, I want to go hang out with my girlfriend, but like fuck, I got this like deal I gotta do tomorrow, and it's like there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
And then I think as for like software like agent and stuff, is actually like you said, like the barrier to entry is really low. It's probably you can get a bunch of maybe like 3K users with like less than $500 of like API credits, tooling, etc. And yeah, when I started, there was this kid called Maxine that kind of gave me a lot of his kind of like free tools, and that kind of got me started. So
Yeah.
that was actually really nice. Yeah.
Right.
This guy built like he focused on a very simple thing, which is speech to text converting. Talking like voice and like shit into like text and like meeting summary notes.
Yeah.
And then now he has like 500K users, and it's like the largest speech to text service in Russia. So this was like about a year and a half in. Just focus on something and keep going.
Very cool.
So now it's not that complicated.
Yeah. Like,
This may be a different way of answering it, but just to kind of speed run entrepreneurship with you guys. Like, what you're doing is you're building something that you expect someone to give you a certain amount of money for at a certain frequency. So if you just like dumb that down, you have an idea, right? Okay, can you build it?
Get that.
Nope.
Could
Siri
you try
can't build
again?
it. You have an idea. Let's say you can build it, right? So the two problems you then solve is after that is, do I get the person who would use it and will they pay me money? And when you can approach that person, which there's a million ways to do that, so you can figure that out, one of two things will happen. Either you will get money or they will tell you why they won't give you money. And there are two paths that form there. What do I have to build about the thing? Or I got money, how many times can I get that person, right? And then you can, bridge it into, how can I leverage more of those people, and you can build channels for that. But all entrepreneurship is, it's not building the thing, it's not selling the thing before it's built. It's literally just building. Is it worth giving me money? It's not, what do I do? Okay, build it more. Is it worth it now? Great. How do I get more of you? And if you can just figure out that loop for yourself, whatever that is, that's the loop to understand, really just moving the needle in any area of life. It's not even just business, it's literally just creating value. So that's kind of the frame I have for it.
All right. Well, that's all the questions I have. I appreciate all you guys coming out. We can take a quick break to grab pizza, and then after that we can open up for Q&A if you guys have any questions. So why don't you guys go first?
Then everybody else can offer.
Okay.
And yeah, ask it.
I guess this one's mainly towards Blake. So you talked about when you're raising and you're pitching to investors, you like to notice who they are, guess who they were as a kid, like your age,
Yeah.
it's like a young adult, and then be that.
Yeah.
So they try but you talked about this loop that you go
Yeah,
through,
yeah.
do that, and I didn't really follow the cursive loop you go through.
Yeah.
But, do you want to be who they are, or do you want to be who they admire at that age, or something like that? How do you go about it again?
I mean, there's really two things. I don't know why I have the weirdest example for you, but someone recently observed this. 'Cause I don't just do it to investors; I do it to a lot of people. It's like someone was bringing up. This sounds random, but they were bringing up carrots and how they make you turn orange, right? And then you'll hear them go with it, right?
No, this is true. This is
And
true.
then-
You eat too much carrots.
Yeah, and then I was like, oh, interesting. Yeah, my friend takes carrot torch as a supplement that does that. And now we're talking about supplements, which I wanted to talk about. So you can kind of pose with investors a topic connected to theirs that will guide it in the direction you want to control, making it feel like they are controlling the conversation.
Yeah.
Right? So if you were talking to me and all of a sudden I brought up something that's going to sell you or close the deal, your guard would go up. But if I interconnected your point to transition it, it feels like you just made control over the deal closing or the deal going that way. So that's kind of layer one. And then the little dark psychology tier, which I don't know if we want to get this on video, but let's just say look at, there's things like micro expressions, heuristics. You want to mimic a lot of the way they act. You want to ask a lot more questions. You want to guide the conversation into, okay, here's the context. Here's where I'm at. If you were in my shoes, what would you do to solve this problem? The second they give you advice, profusely agree with it and say that's what you're doing. Because what you're doing to them is they're in your shoes, they're solving your problem. You tell them you're doing it the way they would solve it, so now they think my young self is this guy, if that makes sense. So that's one tangible example, and you have to obviously do it on a whim. But it's little loops like that where you can control the conversation to reaffirm their belief in you, because they're also believing in yourself. So yeah, those are the two different methods.
This guy's the master of
Every time I talk to you, it's another technique.
Yeah. There's more. I'll tell you in private. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, this guy mentored me on raising, so if anyone wants to raise.
I'll just sell the methods.
So of course.
Buy my course.
How was the raising process for you guys? How did you go about it? What was it like talking to VCs? And how did you convince them to invest?
I just begged, bro.
What?
I just
Oh, you
begged.
begged.
It's let me kind of I don't know. I don't got like skills like Blake, so I kind of just. But I got balls, so I just like. Let's go, bro. Like I say,
Volume negates love.
Oh, not even that. I didn't bring that up. Oh, I think borrowing trust is very important. Did you teach me that?
I don't know.
Okay. But essentially, like, it's like, okay, what are like the points or like the brand names or whatever that like you can kind of borrow?
Yeah.
So like, oh, there's someone on our team that's got like 400K users or something. It's like, oh, you mentioned that. You kind of like drop that a little bit in conversation. I'm like, oh, yeah, we won first place at the NVIDIA GTC Hackathon. You kind of like drop that in the conversation, and it's like all these like different brands are like there's someone in special forces that's gonna go in and say like, okay, that's like something to say, or like, oh, we're working with the largest, the robotics company that has the largest data set collected in the U.S. Like, okay, that's like something to drop. It's all these kind of like, at least for me, like these little notes that can borrow trust from other things.
I have this like philosophy on like people. Yeah, I'm gonna sound really manipulative. I promise this is all really hard. But like people are in the context of raising, like people are just like distributors, and sure, you can meet the guy and convince him to give you money, but what if that guy knows 20 other people that can give you money? Would you rather get him to write you a check, or would you rather convince him to make those 20 introductions? So the way I focus on anything that revolves around needing relatively high volume people, which you need for investors, a lot of people say no, you need a lot of meetings, is don't go for the first order effect of pitching someone. Go for selling them so hard on you, on being involved. Don't ask anything from them, right? These people are your greatest resource. They have what you don't. And if you can convince them enough, they'll give you their greatest resource, which is their network. So instead of having the 1 in 10 chance at selling them, when they give you the 20 people, not only to Sean's point, are you borrowing their trust through the 20 people, them being the distributor, but you have 20 chances now instead of 1, and you learn from them. So your conversion rates are higher, you have 20 times more people, and you're borrowing trust, which also increases the rate. So look at people as distributors, provide as much value as you can, figure out how they distribute into the second order opportunity, which is the pitches themselves. And again, like that's kind of the funnel that we ran through.
There's definitely a game in an algorithm.
There is definitely a game.
Yes. And then you kind of just ask enough people money or like to give you advice that like you kind of learn. Yeah. Okay.
Earlier you were talking about the 95-5 rule.
Yeah.
I guess what are some examples you have of the 5% effort things that translated to the 95% reward?
I have some weird examples, but okay, for example, like our dev team, like we had like a milestone, right? And it was like, okay, we gotta wait 2 months, and then we can get out this product, and then we can start selling to like these people, right? And so instead of like going and doing what I do or doing any desk work, I kind of like stepped back for a second, and I gave myself time to think about, can I like change the rules here? And what I realized was the way that we were building it, it was like we had already gotten so far in like the back end, we had not built anything like in the cloud, and they were going to build out this whole like back end application before they like built the cloud over as well to make it actually usable. And I was like, wait, can we do something that's usable? The answer was yes, right? And so just in kind of like that 20-minute meeting, what we did is we took the majority of the application that's usable, we made it so that for the building milestones, the cloud piece was actually on the front end now, so we build that now, not 2 months from now after the back end is done. And so that removed 2 months from the build timeline, which enabled me to go start selling people. And literally we would have lost 2 months because we would have been waiting if we had not made that one switch. So I could go fuck off for a week. Just making that decision in that 20-minute meeting helped the business more than I will at 40 hours at my desk typing code or whatever, right? So I look at it as like that, like just the highest leverage things are people, telling people what to do, getting more people to give you more value, and like that's the 95 you get out of just the 5 of kind of thing. Yeah, like the chess game.
Wait, really interesting note to it. In addition to the front end we talked about, like you can actually, it's somewhat acceptable to actually hard code a demo.
Yes.
So actually, Perkin, you interviewed some guy that was like working with Musk, and you should go watch his podcast for details. But it essentially like Musk hard coded demos at like the multi-billion-dollar level, and like Yeah, so it's somewhat like a weird, I think, like industry or game, but like somehow it's just acceptable.
Yeah. You know, we raised off just a hard code. Yeah, bro, remember? I was like, one day we'll have an actual demo.
No, but you make it real.
Yeah. Now it's real. Yeah.
What's the name of your company?
Right?
Yeah.
It's called SubHub, like subcontractor hub. Yeah. Not StubHub. It's called SubHub. Probably gonna get sued.
I don't know. I feel like you guys are very practiced at explaining yourselves and gaining trust and like selling yourselves. I guess like if you're, let's say it's some investor meeting or something like that. I guess I have two questions. One is like when you're alone with like just one investor or something like that, how is your approach different than when you're at like a big event or something like that? Is it different? And second is like how do you, if say you're at a big event, like how do you know who to approach? What's your like how do you go about quickly selling yourselves and like describing what you do and actually getting like as you said like so much trust and so much belief in yourself from them that they're like willing to like open up their network to you and things like that?
Like one-on-one at a big event, or like you're speaking in front of people?
I guess like one-on-one.
Okay, cool. So some guy you want to talk to, you pull him aside, you have time, right? Okay, so pattern disruptions. You have a better chance at standing out in front of 100 people than you do being one-on-one at coffee. Because the 99 people that talk to that person to get their time before you all follow the exact same patterns of how people interact. You know how like everyone goes up to you and they'll just say the same thing? Like 95% of people will have the same way they talk, same subject matter, the same level of depth. If someone wants something from you, it'll be kind of the same. They're like pushing themselves on you. Do the exact opposite, and it's actually you get an entirely separate result. Like, what does a VC not want? They don't want to hear your idea. They don't want to hear about your opportunity. They don't want to hear about anything about you. What do they? Well, they want to be asked questions because they probably have a big ego because they're a VC, right? So, what questions? Do you want to revert those questions back to something you're similar to? Now they're engaged because they're telling you something. You're boosting their ego, and they're associating with you because now there's something similar. You know, that versus pitching an idea, like you will stand out so much that they'll be asking you for your number. So you can actually stand out in a crowd if you just do the exact opposite.
So instead of just saying what you're good at, and so you ask them questions that makes them want to talk more with you.
Yeah, everyone loves to talk about themselves.
There was something else. Was like your someone's like impression of like 80% of someone's impression of you doesn't change after the first 16 seconds. Yeah. So the first 16 seconds better be good.
Yeah, better be good.
Yeah. My first investor was like, he spoke at the COK events, and then when he left because he was super busy, and then it's interesting to me because like everyone kind of just like sat still, went with the next program. And I just kind of just like stood up. I ran to the door. I chased after him, ran to this car, and it was like, yo, my name is Sean. I've been to 25 countries. I wrestled for 8 years, and can I learn from you?
I left that in detail there. Maybe not.
I think just have know what your story is. Like everyone loves a good story, and I think that's kind of what helps it in a lot. Is they don't care about the idea. They don't care about. Obviously, you need conviction. You should always speak with conviction that you would die for this problem that you're solving. But also know what your story is. Like, how did you come across? How did you get to the point? It's like why you're doing what it is that you're doing, and I think that will go miles further than just kind of listing off your resume or listing off all these like bullet point items of things that you've done. Like have a story. Like figure out some way to, take everything that you've done and craft some narrative around it. That sounds really good when you explain it to somebody, because that will get somebody to like you a lot more than just being like, oh, I'm from Santa Clara and I'm building this, whatever. I think the story helps.
I guess, what do you think builds like a great narrative that is easy to explain and that like really hits people?
I think it's different for everyone.
Different stories you tell to different people.
I think it's different for everyone. Like it's different for who you're talking to. Like if you're talking to an investor, they want to know about your background. They want to know about like how did you get into doing this in the first place? Why are you doing what you're doing now? But it's also how you tell that story. Like you need to really talk with a lot of like confidence and conviction. because conviction, and you have to speak like you're a little bit delusional too, because at the end of the day, you need to believe in yourself so much so to the point that, you know, people are like, wow, this guy's crazy, but he's crazy enough to believe in his own idea. And I think that comes out a lot when you're talking to somebody and you're sharing your story with them, and it's like, okay, well, like, this guy really believes in himself, you know, like I would bet on this guy because of how, you know, how much conviction he speaks with. So I think that goes a long way. So it's the story and it's the delivery too. So,
Thanks, bro.
Yeah.
I guess a few questions. After you've kind of identified like the people that you want to kind of like join your companies, how do you guys convince the best talent to join? I guess it's the first one, maybe I'll say the second afterwards.
I think people have different areas that they derive meaning. The only reason anyone decides to get out of bed is because of what they call meaning. And for some people, it's their kids, and for some people, all they care about is working 16 hours a day on the thing.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm convincing you to work for SubHub. Mm-hmm. I don't know what derives meaning for you yet. If I want to tell you you're going to be rich, I don't know that's going to matter to you.
Right.
Or is it going to be cutting the cost of housing in half
Right.
and helping homelessness? Or is it going to be the way your kids will look at you, taking a risk?
Right.
What is it going to be? So the first question I ask is everything about you. Where do you come? Where do you have that meaning?
Mm-hmm.
And then I tailor the result to you working here completely around that meaning
Okay.
to make you feel meaningful about the company.
I see. Okay.
Right. So that's kind of like how you
want to tap into their inner drive.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. You gotta go inside.
Very interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say one last question, and then we'll have to wrap it up. Does anybody want to wrap it up? Yeah.
Basically, how can you find what's your advice to try to find what your true passion is, and how does internship help? So,
Like your true passion is in like you specifically.
like, yeah, or trying to find like a passion in like AI and so.
Okay, if you just do enough shit,
Yeah.
like you'll just find something
Yeah.
and fall in love with it.
And like, let's say I joined internship,
Why would you join an internship? What would you want out of it?
I know some real life work experience.
What do you want from that experience? Do you want to work at a different company? Do you want to start your own? What do you think?
I know, but I think it's good to have an internship at the different company to see how the workplace environment is
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think maybe you find that answer by working at an internship. You know what I mean? Like, you'll wear a lot of hats, you'll do a lot of things, and one of those hats you'll like better, right? And that's what meaning is, right? Realizing you like this part of that internship better. So, I think that's it.
Cool. Thank you guys all for coming. Can we go around? And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Thanks, bro.